you are saying that that's a limit that Indian market will have.
The markets will correct from that position.
Sir, as you mentioned about the disinvestment plan, and India expects to raise 31,000 crore from 3G auction. Now we have two things for this year: 31,000 crore from 3G plus 25,000 crores from disinvestment. Now, how optimistic are you seeing the NTPC's FPO being not expected that well, very well, and REC also? I mean, it's not going as expected as it should be. Yeah. So, any comment on that, sir? And how?
But that is a perennial problem. For long, this investment has been objected by some.
No, he is not talking about the objection. He is talking about the response of the market.
Response of the market will be very good. That is what I feel.
Because government is expecting a huge chunk of amount.
Yes.
56.
But it should come through.
My advice to the government would be not to be too greedy about the price.
Yes, price level. If they keep it reasonable, maybe it will come through.
The reason the public has not responded enthusiastically to the recent issues is because they found that there is not much of a difference between the market price and the issue price. Maybe in the forthcoming NMDC issue, now the government has announced that they will price it 35% lower than the market price. Then that is, I think, attractive enough for the investors.
Yes. So that way probably government has to rationalize its way in thinking
yes,
of how it has to raise money.
Pricing policy has to be...
Pricing policy has to be an issue. Sir, new banking license. You talked about inclusion. And
yes.
Now FM is talking about new banking license to private sectors.
Yes.
And that too he has hinted that it will be for rural areas first. You will have to complete 5 to 6 years of operation in rural areas and then moving up. Now the current scenario says that private banks have been active to the tune of 6.5% in rural areas as compared to PSUs and other nationalized banks. How do you see that this new licensing policy would help private sector or rural banking initiative?
That is what right from 2009 Reserve Bank of India is propagating with banking sector, that you need to have financial literacy and as well as financial and banking inclusion. If you are not in a position to do, we will allow others to go for it. And others are interested in going because there is a lot of business available in rural and semi-urban sectors.
Sir, but why we have such a low penetration of private sector banks as compared to PSUs? Why they have not been so optimistic about rural India? The 6% penetration of private sector banks.
Because the entry level difficulties are very high. But once they realize that now this is a field where they can promote their business, they will definitely come in for.
So again, we say that we are betting on good agricultural monsoon season and a better income share for...
A good or bad agriculture, a person in rural area or remote area will need banking, isn't it? So monsoon may be good 1 year or another, but he will need the services for several years.
And what Adam has suggested...
And let us remember that in the absence of efficient and organized banking services in the rural areas, there is a thriving unorganized financial sector
yes.
which has been in operation in rural India for several centuries, and it still continues to be the backbone of the financial structure in the rural areas today, which is not, in my opinion, a desirable thing to do because the availability of credit comes at a very high price, and that is what is leading so many farmers to commit suicides.
And actually, that is the reason for the exploitation of farmers and agriculturalists, which should not happen. When the banks are nationalized,
there is a lot of money, there is a lot of potential in the rural economy, which the commercial banks and the private banks need to exploit.
You have some points on that?
Yeah, I would like to move to the other question. Primary education. Government has proposed to spend 31,000 crore on primary education and another 3,000 some crore which will be provided by the state government for elementary education. Now, government has been successful in primary education, but India seriously lacks in technical education and PhDs. Any comments on that? Because nothing much has been done in that
On the
case.
innovation ground also, I was reading a report from World Bank. India ranks 56. I mean, how
that is not going to change overnight. You will require a medium and long-term planning for this. What government must be thinking is primary sector and secondary sector education. No private companies or people would come. as this has been seen that tertiary education, that is skill development and management education, if you talk about, there are many private companies and private players who are interested and are coming in a big way in the tertiary education. So if you monitor and if you have a statutory bodies like AICTE and other UGC kind of organizations which will keep an eye on the quality and the price which is charged for the tertiary education, the need of the day is still, whatever you say, 60 years after your independence, you still have very less literacy rate. So government should actually, because government is alone in primary and secondary education, so they will have to allocate more money there, and they will have to allow private people in the sectors where they are ready. The only part is left is regulation. So if you regulate them well, everything will happen.
I think Kapil Sibal has been trying very hard.
Actually, population, poverty and illiteracy are the three major hurdles. And if you increase literacy, naturally poverty and population will be controlled. That is but for sure. And you need not have PhDs, you need not have technically qualified people, but literacy is important.
See, when the government is talking about empowerment, that empowerment comes from primary education, which has a highly neglected field over the last 5 decades.
I would like to say that though number of students, number of the population coming into the purview of primary education in these years has increased drastically, but the level of education, the quality of education has not increased a lot.
That is one factor.
It is
Yes.
something which is alarming.
See, that is certainly a serious factor. And on the other hand, there is also a significantly large number of small children who are forced into labor, who are deprived of education. They want to go to schools, but they cannot go to schools. That is a very unfortunate and a shameful thing for every Indian. Every proud Indian must be ashamed of this situation.
So when we are talking about quality of life, the first ever in the history of India, RFM has been speaking about social security. Can you please throw some light on that, and how important is it for Indian economy?
Social security is absolutely important. All other countries have been offering social security. Because of poverty and illiteracy and inadequate information with the people, they did not insist on having it. But it is a must.
Sir, and how do you think that how we will be moving ahead with this? This is an implication.
Yeah, this is just a signal which is given as in this budget. This will continue for a long period of time. As Sir rightly said, that social security is provided world over, and if the provisions are made in budget, and if some compulsory contributions are taken from the employed people in their working age, then social security can always be provided. Only factor that really limits this particular concept coming in a big way is the population percentage that you have, the working population that you have, and the people who can contribute actually into this. Because running deficit is no more a viable issue. So what you have is some people will have to contribute for their own social security and for others also. So this will require some time. I hope, I believe that there would be a couple of decades which will go for social security to become a real issue in India. But this is the right step in right direction.
I would like to differ a little on this particular topic, in the sense that let us not forget that Indians habitually are savers.
Right.
Unlike the Western societies where people, especially in America, are habitual spenders. We save by instinct. Ever since we start working and earning, we save by instinct. That is one very major plus point that the Indian population has. Okay, so in that sense, social security may not be really urgent urgently for Indians as of now.
But it's a good sign that we are moving.
We are
Okay, we are running.